They say when an elephant falls, the ground trembles. On February 9th, 2024, the earth shook for Africa's business world. Herbert Wigwe, a billionaire banker, investor, philanthropist, gone in an instant. But behind the tragedy lies a vault of lessons, fortune, betrayal, and ambition. You might want to watch this to the end, because buried in this story could be the wisdom that saves your business empire someday. And what if I told you it wasn't just the crash that created a crack in his empire, but something else entirely? Herbert Wigwe crafted his own destiny, rising from a humble beginning to become the CEO of Access Bank, co-founding the empire with his trusted friend. From there, he grew step by step, failure by failure. Business lesson. In business, start with what you have and grow it with what you know. Herbert Wigwe didn't inherit a banking empire, nor did he stumble upon massive capital overnight. What he had was a sharp financial mind, education, integrity, and an unshakable hunger to build something extraordinary. They only had one leverage, and it was their financial expertise from years working in the banking sector. Herbert was once an executive director at Guarantee Trust Bank. Business lesson: every boss was once a worker, but not every worker will become a boss. This explains the fact that before Herbert Wigwe became the towering figure we know today, the billionaire CEO, the investor, the empire builder, he was once an employee. In fact, he served as the executive director at Guarantee Trust Bank, GT Bank, one of Nigeria's biggest financial institutions. He wasn't doing it for just the salaries. He was doing it for something else. It was the bigger picture. Sometimes entrepreneurs and aspiring business owners don't understand that in the workplace, there are two types of workers. We have the clock watcher. This person comes to work just to collect a paycheck. They do the bare minimum. No vision, no hunger, no extra effort. They wait for instructions, avoid responsibility, and blame their environment for their stagnation. Their mindset is survival, not success. And then there is the empire builder in training. This ones may still be an employee, but their mindset is different. They treat the business like their own. They study how the business runs, understand the customers, learn from leadership decisions, and seek mentorship. They build networks quietly, sharpen their skills, and when the time is right, they step out, fully equipped. Herbert Wigwe was this type. At GT Bank, Herbert wasn't just earning a salary, he was learning a system. He studied finance, corporate structures, risk management, and deal making. He built relationships, both inside and outside the bank. He observed how businesses grow, survive crises, and compete. When the time came to co-found Access Bank, he wasn't starting from zero. He had grown himself in the process. African proverb: a child who washes his hands will dine with elders. This means if you prepare yourself while under others, you will one day sit at the table as a leader too. There is so much lessons here for every employee watching. All you need is a mindset shift to realize that your current job is not your prison. It's your training ground. Stop seeing yourself as just an employee. Start seeing yourself as a future boss in training, gathering tools, connections, and wisdom. Herbert Wigwe's story shows that every big empire often starts with humble service and strategic preparation. So ask yourself today this simple question: which type of worker are you? The clock watcher or the empire builder? Many entrepreneurs think success demands huge starting capital or perfect conditions. But Wigwe's story proves that what you know is often more valuable than what you have. If you master your trade, understand your market, and build strong alliances, you can turn humble beginnings into continental empires. African proverb: a river does not swell on its own. It is fed by little streams. Herbert Wigwe's rise was those little streams of knowledge, partnerships, boldness, and clear vision converging into a mighty river. African proverb: Little by little, the bird builds its nest. But what happens when the nest gets too big, too fast? Wigwe understood something most African entrepreneurs miss, which is the power of strategic networks. From Lagos to London, from Nairobi to New York, he built relationships, not just businesses. Business lesson #2. Your network is your net worth, but only if you nurture it. Most people want to network without bringing anything to the table. That's called social self-sabotage. You must have value to the relationship, because most times we can't do it all alone. African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But sometimes, those you go together with may become your greatest risk, and that's just the irony of life. Every empire builder must learn from this. Herbert made a critical mistake in life. He trusted too much. He let key partners and family close to his empire, co-owning assets, businesses, and influence. Life lessons: when power is shared without clear boundaries, chaos waits in the shadows. Business lesson: in business, trust but verify. And soon Herbert would realize this, but it would be too late. At some point he saw ahead. Then he began to diversify his business. He knew he can't be an entrepreneur who stays within the label of being a banker. The world was a canvas and he must paint. From banking, Herbert moved into education, launching Wigwe University, a dream to build Africa's Ivy League school. He also invested in real estate, philanthropy, media, an empire that sprawled across industries and countries. Business lesson: diversify your streams, but don't lose sight of your foundation. African proverb: the one who chases 2 rats will catch none. But Herbert was no ordinary hunter, or so he thought. Or maybe it was the fate of all great men, the hero's fate.
Herbert, happy birthday to you.
In February 2024, a helicopter crash in the U.S. Mojave Desert, which was confirmed to claim the life of Herbert, his wife, son, and close friends. A tragedy that left Africa in shock and the world in shock, and his family and elderly parents shattered. Business lesson: never build an empire without a clear succession plan. African proverb: when the owner of the house is not around, the goat takes the parlor. Don't also forget that when the drumbeat changes at the village square, the dancer must adjust his steps. This entails that as a leader, you must prepare for inevitable change, including your own exit, bearing in mind that no matter how powerful your empire is, if it cannot outlive you, it is incomplete. Build people, build structures, name and prepare your successors. But despite it all, it wasn't the crash that would threaten his legacy the most. It was what came after. After his death, estate battles erupted between family and partners. Betrayals surfaced, arguments over ownership, disputes over his will and assets. The same people once entrusted now became contenders. Business lesson: structure is everything. Document what you build, control how it's passed on. African proverb: the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. The estate fights, corporate tussles, and legacy disputes that often surface after a leader is gone are the result of what was cut in secret and left unresolved. Funny enough, Herbert's daughters, who had barely worked few months before her dad's tragic end, has been able to fit into a great man's shoes. It shows she got a lion's heart and she is fearless. In partnerships, be mindful of every decision, every handshake, every deal. Every neglected document is either a seed or an axe. The choice is yours. Herbert left a legacy, but did he leave peace? During his 1-year anniversary, the business world was shocked to see the traumatic encounter that took place between Wigwe's family and some business partners and associates. Entrepreneurs must understand the hidden dangers of business partnerships. In business, partnerships can either build empires or silently plant the seeds of disaster. Herbert Wigwe's story, though tragic and remarkable, quietly echoes a lesson every entrepreneur must learn early. Partnership is powerful but risky. When you study history, especially in Africa and globally, you'll notice a pattern. Fights over estates, betrayals, misaligned visions, disputed legacies. Why? Because in business partnerships, trust can blur boundaries, success can magnify hidden greed, unclear agreements can invite chaos. Herbert Wigwe co-founded Access Bank, built wealth across industries, and leveraged high-level networks. But after his tragic passing, like in many business stories, questions surfaced: who controls what? Who gets what? Who carries on the vision? When things aren't crystal clear, confusion reigns. Business lesson: in business, love your partner but sign your papers. Emotions don't replace structure. Verbal trust doesn't replace legal agreements. A business without clear ownership structures, succession plans, exit strategies, conflict resolution mechanisms is a ticking time bomb. No matter how profitable it looks, they are risk in partnerships. African proverb: when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. When business partners clash, it's the business employees and families that pay the price. In Africa, we say, a child who has elders sitting around the fire cannot be left to go astray. Oppositions have tried to break the bond shared by the family, but Herbert's daughter has been strong, contrary to reports that grandpa is seeking to take Herbert's estate, as reported by legacy media and paid bloggers. And when a tree falls in the forest, it is the elders who gather to lift the branches and secure the roots. When Herbert Wigwe, a titan of African enterprise, a man whose hands shaped banking, real estate, and philanthropy, was tragically lost to the skies, the land felt the weight of his absence. He left behind empires and children. But the question which was whispered in homes, in gatherings, in courtrooms, who would now guard the future? His will suddenly has become an issue of contention, but his daughter has been carrying on the huge empire gracefully despite the chaos. But in African tradition, a child's ultimate refuge lies with the grandparents in the absence of the parents. It is the duty of those whose hands once carried the father to now carry the children. Choose partners carefully and endeavor to align values before money. Put everything in writing, even the ugly possibilities. Plan for the end, even at the beginning. Have exit strategies, estate protection, and conflict protocols. Revisit and review agreements regularly, for you don't know when the reaper might come knocking. Remember, a partner today can become a competitor, saboteur, or legal enemy tomorrow. That doesn't mean avoid partnerships. It means build them with eyes open and wisdom sharpened. Despite the tragedy, Herbert Wigwe's impact remains undeniable. Access Bank stands tall. Wigwe University is growing. His philanthropic foundation still touches lives. Business lesson: the greatest empire you build is not in structures, but in the hearts you touch. Herbert Wigwe's story is a masterpiece of ambition, risk, and consequence. A man who rose from nothing, built everything, and whose legacy now serves as both a warning and a map for African entrepreneurs. And so the question remains, in your business, are you building an empire or just renting one? Thanks for watching this story, and we hope it helps you run your business better. Hi Hustler, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, kindly do and share to join this large community of hustlers.